Ozzy Homestead. How in the heck are you today? Yeah, well, that last video I put up on Tuesday, that was one tired boy. I mean, I had drove for about 16 hours and then had to get that video up. Just trying to give you a little heads up. Things are really beginning to move fairly fast out there. Yeah. We are running into a scenario, and this is what I want y'all to think about. And go do your own research on this. Don't take my word for it. Go out and take a look, and what you're going to start seeing is a scenario of it's becoming the haves against the have-nots. Now, most people do not ever want to get into things like the Federal Reserve, things of that nature. It's pretty boring stuff. Really it is. Trust me, the Federal Reserve, they are not owned by the federal government, and they definitely have no reserves. Matter of fact, you are living in a world of bogus currencies. And how the system really works is they print up this intangible thing called money, piece of paper. It's backed by nothing other than our word that will repay it. So when you get your paycheck, that's given to you for your labor. And you get to pay it back to other people who do labor for you, the power companies, phone companies, water companies, things of this nature. You get to pay it back to the Federal Reserve via, they don't care about the money because they know the money's worthless. But you have went and done a job for the people who really run this world, and you're paying back into a banking society to where you get to live in your house. Yeah, with interest. Right. Yeah. So it is a big joke. You are slave labor. When mankind gets through their head that indeed they are slave labor, then you begin to understand where the world really is. And this is something that the elites don't want you to know. Not really. Because they're afraid of you. You outnumber them. They understand that. They understand that this whole system can get pulled down around their ears if you get mad. And once you realize what you really are, you're going to get a tad bit angry. Okay? You're a slave. I don't care what the color of your skin is. Back in the antebellum days when slavery was running amok here in this country, the slaves, black, whites, Indians, whoever was enslaved in this nation, you were given food, shelter, medical treatment, things of this nature by your owner in exchange for your labor. You quit working, you didn't get fed, sheltered, or taken care of. So that's how it worked. You served on the plantation for food, clothing, medical attention, some facility of a family life, things of this nature. It's where you're at today. The printing presses are going. And when you listen to these kids today talk about, oh, well, just give us free college and give us this and give us that. Well, somebody's got to pay for this. Okay? That's number one. The government printing presses has a cost, and it's called slavery. Your labor is going to reimburse the people who run that system for giving you that fiat cash. It's about as simple as I can make it. The Federal Reserve came about the same time as them taking away the states' rights back in the 1913 area, back in there, because the states and the federal government would have been in competition, you might say. So they had to kind of consolidate power in Washington, D.C., and the Federal Reserve was created, and here we go. What did the Federal Reserve do? Well, they were supposed to protect us from, like, recessions and things of that nature. Well, shortly after the Federal Reserve was created, the operators of it, son of a gun, if the stock market didn't crash. Big market crash of the 20s. Boom, here you go. Companies that were worth a lot were suddenly broke. Stock wasn't worth a hoot. Unemployment went through the roof. The Great Depression was on. People made money back then. Lots of money. You had people like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and people like this. Same names associated with the Federal Reserve. Yeah. They stepped into the stock market and started buying up all this stocks from companies that were crashing and burning from the stock market crash for pennies on a dollar. And then, of course, the crash was over. And these guys cleaned up. Now, your family probably lost your ancestors lost their homes, they lost their farms, moved into the cities because that's the only place they could get food. It happens. The Federal Reserve was created supposedly to stop recessions and depressions and things of this nature in this country, and they have done an absolute miserable job at it. To the extent that a lot of countries, it used to be we would create treasury bonds and we would sell those to foreign countries to float our debt. Most of these countries have cashed in their bonds and are not buying more of them, very little, because we haven't been doing such a good job of being good stewards of our money. How's that? So when we talk about this, these things like these stimulus bills, that's almost become funny. And it should, if people would go out and just look at some of the things that your politicians are doing. Fascinating. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but a lot of that money going to small businesses to keep people employed that they passed out with the first stimulus. Why isn't the government still got a bunch of that money around? It didn't seem to all get distributed, and businesses disappeared, and your jobs disappeared. But that's okay. They were giving you extra unemployment. Well, that's fine if you wasn't a self-employed contractor or something of that nature, because you weren't eligible for unemployment. So here's your little stimulus check. Go away and don't bother us. Probably enough to pay your mortgage payment for a month or so. Right now, most of the American people are sitting and they haven't even thought about it. You are probably so far behind in your rent and your mortgage that if they ever lift the moratorium on foreclosures and evictions, you, my friend, are homeless. But, they got together up there in Washington, D.C. They put together another stimulus to bail you out, all $600 frickin' of it. There you go. Pay your utility bill. Keep your cell phone turned on. As far as catching up on your rent or your mortgage, it's not going to happen. Got behind in your car payment, you think that bank put their arm around your neck and said, "Oh, you poor thing, we understand it's not your fault. We're not going to repossess your car." Then they laugh and go, "Not," and take off with your car. They don't care. Okay? So this is what you're getting ready to face. And every time they come up with this stimulus nonsense, it devalues your buying power. I want to show you something. Labor produces things. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay. What that is there, and I just kind of kept it as a little keepsake for my fun time out in the desert. I used to get about $3,000 a month off of this stuff. It's called gold. Yeah. Not off this small of a quantity. Although today this thing's worth a couple of grand. That's a little Bilo, about an ounce in there. Let me tell you what this will do. At the price it's selling for today, I could probably go out and buy myself a nice suit with this. If I converted it into cash, I'd probably have enough cash to go buy myself a new tailor-fitted suit. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah? Not too expensive one, but a decent suit. Back in 1900, they had $20 gold pieces, coinage. It was an ounce of gold, stamped into a coin. And back then, it would buy you a nice suit. So, basically, this stuff has held its value. You tell me you can go buy yourself a custom little suit, nice one, for $20 of this fiat cash they're giving out today? You'd be doing good to buy yourself the underwear to wear under that suit for $20. Difference. Tangible product. Real stuff. Gold. Okay? Now, no, I'm not a gold hoarder. This, I would go out into the desert. I had a gold claim in Nevada, and I would go out and I would bust rocks on the weekend, load up a truck bed full of them, bring them back, park it in the driveway, and I had a rock grinder. And I grind and panned this gold. Labor. But at the end of my labor, I had something tangible. I had this. I had gold that I would take down and sell and get back the current value rate of what this gold was worth. Today, you get a piece of paper. It's all but freaking worthless. Because all that is a debt note. You fulfilled your debt to the elites of this world. That's what that note is. Thank you for your service. Here's your money. But it's really worthless. It's a piece of paper. If you'll go through and do the research, there was this wild man over in the Middle East who decided he was going to talk the other Middle East oil producers into using a native currency, coming up with their own currency, backed by this stuff. This little pile of gold. Tangible. Okay? That's what he was going to do. And they was catching on. Yeah, because they liked the idea. Exchange our oil for gold? Yeah. Oil we got, gold we don't. Guy's name was Saddam Hussein. And we took his butt out for that. Took him out. John F. Kennedy was talking about putting the American dollar back on the gold standard. He didn't much care for the Federal Reserve. Him nor his brother. It's a shame they didn't survive. Shortly after them making that John F. Kennedy making that kind of announcement that he was going to try to put the country back on the gold standard, some crazy dudes shot his butt down in Dallas. His brother ran for president when it looked like he might get elected. Yeah, because he wanted to do the exact same thing. He agreed with his brother on that. Yeah, and he was shot too. Ronald Reagan wanted to put us onto the silver standard. At least use silver. Because Ronald Reagan hadn't seen the audit results from Fort Knox, and he knew we didn't have gold. And it was gone. See, that's real wealth. And it got distributed out of that Fort Knox. To the extent, how do you know that? You know that, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, really? When Europe began to not trust us too much and said, hey, we want our gold back that we gave you during the Second World War. We didn't have it. Where'd it go? Nobody seems to know. So you're nothing more than a slave, America. Anyway, finish up with Ronald Reagan. He was going to put us back on silver. And looks like somebody tried to kill him too. And I'm sure probably at some point while he's laying there in the hospital, somebody went up and whispered in his ear, next time we won't miss. Forget about it. Because he did. Nobody in politics is going to mess with the Federal Reserve. Why? Because let me tell you what those guys can do. They can look at these politicians and say, we'll put you in the middle of a Great Depression in 30 seconds, you fool with us. We control the money. We own you. Mess with us, we'll crash this economy just long enough for all of you clowns to get voted right out of office. And then we'll let the other guys know, don't be a fool like this last bunch. Everybody wants to talk about the deep state. There it is. You're a slave. What you think you own, you really don't. You need to wake up, America. A lot of your founding fathers, they were just heck bent for Greyhound. No central banks. They had seen what the Bank of England had done. And they did not want it here in this country. Because what it does is it turns into the control mechanism for the elites. And it turns the people into slaves. This is written since the Homestead. Do your research. Time to wake up, America. Because it's just about time for them to throw the switch and take total control. And they're working on it. You have a great day. Keep smiling. Get out there and start looking. You're being had. Love you guys and appreciate you.